If you could go back 10 years and ask your younger self, did I make it? What do you think you would say? Honestly, I would say yeah. I graduated college, I have a stable job, and a loving girlfriend. I know how blessed I am. But at the same time, there's a weird feeling that I can't ignore. Do you ever feel like you're chasing something? Because I've noticed that no matter what I accomplish, I always want to do more. My entire adult life, I've been chasing one thing or another, whether it was a degree or money or followers. When I've obtained these things, it's like I don't even let myself stay there anymore. I don't stop and smell the roses because there's always something else I could do. There's something bigger I can achieve, and oh, there's another project to work on. Now we are so used to just chasing the next big thing that we don't appreciate where we're at. And we don't allow ourselves to just sit there and enjoy the moment. And I started to think about why that is, and what I realized is kind of uncomfortable. You see, the constant feeling of wanting more is deeper than just grinding for our dreams. It's rooted in what we aren't allowing ourselves to do. But before we get into that, I think it's important to share some context. Maybe like you watching this video, I grew up in a middle-class household where I knew where my next meal was coming from, and I was blessed to have two loving parents, and by every definition, I don't think I had a hard childhood at all. And you may be wondering why this matters at all. Well, it's because if I had this feeling of always wanting more and never being satisfied with my comfortable childhood, then I assume people with more hardships than me are feeling something similar. And shit, even if you had a more comfortable life, then you might be feeling this more than I do. Because my life is relatively comfortable, I feel the need to prove it to myself and show myself that I deserve the life that I'm living, and I deserve to be happy. I feel the need to push myself to greater and greater things because I've been blessed with such a wonderful life. But it's like a double-edged sword because I never truly get to enjoy the moment and appreciate the progress that I've made. And you may have seen this taking shape in your life. Like if you started at the gym to lose weight and you lost 10 pounds, you'll feel awesome, but only for like a second. And then your mind switches to, wait, how can I go to 20 pounds lost? And it's like you completely gloss over the fact that you lost 10 pounds. That is a great thing. And if you've made it this far and are thinking to yourself, what is he talking about? Ambition is a good thing. Make sure to stick around because I agree, but more on that later. It's like self-guilt in a way because when you stop and smell the roses, this feeling of guilt starts to creep up behind us and it makes us ask ourselves, should I be doing more with my time? Am I just being a chud if I'm sitting here and relaxing and doing nothing productive? But the weird thing is, I used to think this was a me problem. Like I was the only person who couldn't enjoy anything because of the life that I grew up with. But the more I started to look around for answers, the more comfort I found knowing that I was not alone in this fight. So I dug into why this feeling is so common, and then I started to notice that the biggest source of this comes from something that we use every day. I recently read an article that said over 40% of people in Gen Z have been diagnosed with some sort of mental health condition. And my first thought was, bro, you don't even need to look at the study, just look around you. Phone usage is at an all-time high. The number of single people in Gen Z is higher than any other generation, and people are reporting to have less friends. And I think I know exactly why this is happening, and it's correlated to one specific thing. And it all traces back to social media and the mentality that it's teaching our generation. Over the last few years, the ultimate grinder mentality has taken over, especially for people in their 20s. And if you're not familiar with what this mentality is, just think of the dudes that wake up at 4 a.m. to do these cold plunges and they optimize every part of their life in order to level up. And look, respect to them, like the discipline is real, but somewhere along the way, it went from, oh, I just want to be better to something way more toxic. It's like the idea of enjoying any level of comfort has gotten completely canceled. Now everything has to be optimized to fit into this routine, and every single moment of your life has to be productive. And why would you hang out friends? It would be only worth it if it's like a fucking networking opportunity. And who is the guy most responsible for pushing this narrative onto our generation? You may already know who he is. Look no further than every garage sale's least favorite person, Gary fucking V. This guy has made a living on social media by promoting this hustle culture and saying stuff like,
I swallow every piece of gum. What? I've swallowed every piece of gum that I've ever chewed in my life.
And his words have authority. He's created a billion-dollar media company by promoting this kind of mindset. So when people who are in their teenage years or people in their 20s are seeing this, they think this is the only way to become successful by grinding all day and ripping off garage sales and reselling everything. But there's a side effect that nobody is talking about, that when you're constantly grinding and sprinting, you never stop to realize what you've already built. Social media has completely normalized skipping past your wins and not taking a moment to celebrate what you've accomplished. I mean, think about it. When is the last time you stopped and enjoyed what you've accomplished? Let me know in the comments, because for me, it was celebrating 500 subscribers. Or when you finally hit a goal that you've been chasing for months and months, your first thought isn't, hey, my hard work is finally paying off. It's more like, damn, what do I gotta do next? And I know this feeling all too well because I did the same exact thing. I mean, man, I was miserable waking up early and hitting the gym and trying to optimize all of my meals and cutting out a lot of the stuff that I genuinely enjoyed. And sure, I made a lot of progress towards my goal, but at what cost? My fucking sanity? I was starting to feel insane, so I knew something had to change. So what if I told you that the most disciplined thing you can actually do is know when to stop grinding? It's really a lot harder than you think, having this on and off switch, getting in and out of this grind mode, or on the flip side, doing nothing all day and gaining the courage to start. I feel like it's really hard to balance these two feelings because our brains are literally hardwired to chase the next thing. Think of it like this. Our caveman ancestors for thousands of years only had one thing on their mind, which was to survive. You think after a caveman finally killed a woolly mammoth, that he would just go lay back in his cave and relax? Hell no. Their brains immediately switched to, oh shit, dude, I don't know where my next meal's gonna come from. I don't know how I'm gonna survive until tomorrow. They were always searching for more so they could survive. It is literally in our DNA to want more. We would not exist as a species if our caveman ancestors got one win and then just clocked out and was a chud. Chudding didn't exist back then. The problem is that design was built for surviving in the wild, not for a world where you're getting hit with 500 Instagram reels a day telling you that you're not doing shit with your life. So if it wasn't hard enough for our own DNA telling us that we should want more, insert social media where you can see what anybody is doing at any time. It makes us feel like that we're starting to fall behind. You may have felt this before when you see people online who are 22 years old and have retired their parents and are multi-millionaires. And at the same time, when I was 22, I was in college learning about fucking debits and credits in accounting class. So of course, when we compare our lives to these people online who are the top 0.0001%, we are gonna feel shitty about our situation no matter what. And we're gonna try to do anything and grind no matter what to try to match that success. And what gets buried under all of that is something that took me a while to actually realize. Clout, money, fame, those do not equate to happiness. There's this term called affluenza, and it's a play on affluence and influenza, and it describes these really, really rich people who in everyone else's eyes, you know, they've made it to the pinnacle of life. But behind closed doors, they are miserable, they are suffering, and they are sick. And I've seen it with my own two eyes. The most stressed people I've ever been around in a corporate setting are the ones that are pulling in the biggest checks. So although we see them as these quote unquote successful people, we have to remember that their clout and their success does not equate to happiness. And this is something I'm actively working on because although I try to act nonchalant about this YouTube channel, I really do want it to perform well. And when a video kind of underperforms to my standards, I get a little sad. And that's really embarrassing to say out loud to this audience, but it's true. And now I'm trying to implement some techniques in my life to help balance that feeling of trying to, grind for 24/7 and also appreciating what I've done and what I've accomplished. But before we get into some strategies for balancing these two feelings, we need to understand why it's not necessarily a bad thing to do nothing. I want to preface that when I say doing nothing, that doesn't mean just doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok for a couple of hours. Doing nothing is where you're letting your brain and your mind just rest and wander to places that you haven't been in a while. And I feel like this is when our best ideas come to the surface. There's this category of thinking that people discuss online and they call it shower thoughts. There is a reason why our best ideas come to us when we are in the shower. It's not a coincidence at all. This is the time when your brain is finally not being bombarded with content for 5 minutes or any other types of input. And you finally get some space to chill and it starts creating. We've also completely mixed up what slowing down and enjoying the moment means. I think with social media that we've convinced ourselves that slowing down means we're quitting. But even though in the long run, if you take some time to relax and slow down, that is best and optimal for long-term growth.
And I fell for this same trap for the longest time. So when you take all of these reasons into consideration, you understand why in modern times it is nearly impossible to balance the mindset of grinding along with appreciating what you've accomplished. There are some strategies I've tried to implement in my life, and they are way different than you might think. For example, for the past year, I've been creating content. I've been trying to do 3 specific things to try to help me stay sane during this process. But before we jump into these 3 reasons, I need to state that I am not one of these self-help gurus online. I know I got a lot of things to work on myself, and these are just some of the things that have helped me during tough times, so I'm hoping it can help you as well. The first thing I did was pretty simple, but it was kind of embarrassing to admit. I literally just started setting time aside just to exist and to do nothing. No agenda. So if I wanted to spend 3 hours to beat the Ender Dragon, I can. Or if I wanted to binge Better Call Saul or something from the beginning, I could, and I would have zero guilt. And this has also helped me prevent situations of burnout and getting past creative blocks. And those feelings of guilt when I started to enjoy myself eventually started to fade away. But I would be lying if I said this was the perfect solution. That's why the second thing I've done is attempt an overall mindset shift. With the shift, instead of treating rest as the polar opposite of productivity, I started to treat it as a part of the process. I use basketball as an analogy in this case because NBA players like Joker, they don't grind every single day. They spend a lot of time recovering. Recovery is literally built into the schedule of these players because without it, the whole system would fall apart. So if you can reframe your brain from treating this like good versus evil to treating it where they're a part of the same team, you can stop feeling this guilt for just simply taking a breath. And on that same note, you have to realize it's not a black and white scale, it's on a spectrum. But the third tip I've used to balance these feelings is the one that has helped me the most. This one may sound simple, but it took me a while to feel it. For most of my adult life, I have struggled with just letting myself be happy. And I mean actually sit in a good moment without immediately waiting for something to go wrong. Like when things started going well and instead of enjoying it, I would get suspicious. It feels like something is too good to be true. Something must be off. And what I realize is that is not self-discipline at all. That is straight up self-sabotage. You don't need to earn the right to feel good. And if things are going your way right now, enjoy that shit. Don't let this grind mentality guilt you out of the moments that are literally the whole reason you're working hard in the first place. It's okay to be happy. And that's where I'm at with all of this. I'm still in it and I'm still trying to figure it out. But these small shifts have moved me away from living in total extremes. On one side, we have that full hermit grind mode. And on the other, we have just doing absolutely nothing and being a chud. And these shifts have turned it into something that actually feel livable. And none of this is a formula. There's no right and there's no wrong. Balance isn't something you just calculate. It's something that you feel out over time. And it's going to look completely different from what it looks like with me to what it looks like for you. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. You are allowed to be happy. You don't owe anybody a performance to show them how hard you're grinding. Go out and go actually enjoy your life, man. And I do want to say one more thing before you click off. We just hit 500 subscribers. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed, liked, commented on any of my videos or supported in any kind of way. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This is just the beginning. And I also want to give a shout out to Polly Walnuts and JP Finance for inspiring this kind of vid. Peace.